Okay, so this video is going to be about using sign charts to solve inequalities. And really what that means is we're doing this quote unquote algebraically. So the way this works is, and these 5 steps here are the same 5 steps that we wrote on the board the other day. So we're just going to follow those steps as we try to solve the example inequality that I wrote out right here. So let's take a look. Step 1 is we're trying to get all the terms on one side. So try to make the leading coefficient positive. Well, the leading coefficient is like you find your biggest power. So in this case, it's the x squared is the biggest power. And the coefficient in this case is -1. It's the term in front. I want that to be positive. So instead of bringing the 12x and the 15 over to the right side, I'm going to bring everything over to the left side, which will make the leading coefficient positive. So then this is going to turn into positive. So here, let me write this. So this will turn into positive x squared. And then when I subtract 4x from both sides, I'll get plus 8x plus 15 is less than or equal to 0 now. Okay. And notice these two guys will have the same solution. Same solution. So if I find the answer to this inequality, then I've really found the answer to the original problem. Okay, so let's look at that one. And it turns out this one, well, we've done step 1. We've got all the terms on one side, so it equals 0. So the other side is 0. Now we treat it like an equation to find the zeros. So that's this step. So step 2, let's find the zeros. So treat it like an equation, it's already equal to 0. Make that curvy, plus 15 equals 0. And then this one we can factor. So if I factor it, it becomes x minus 3, or sorry, x plus 3, x plus 5 equals 0. And so then if I turn each one, so each one has to be 0, or one of them has to be 0 at least, so we check them both. So this one would be x is -3, or that one would be x is -5. Okay, so there are my zeros. So step 2 is done. Step 3 is create a sign chart and label the zeros on it. So let's make a sign chart. So when you make a sign chart, I'm going to draw, here's my number line. And then I want to label the zeros on it. And since it's a number line, the x's get bigger as I go to the right. So the most negative one is -5. And then the next one is -3. Those are my x values. And I'm plugging them into this term up here, x squared plus 8x plus 15. Right, and when I plugged in what I figured out was if you plug in -5, you get 0 for this, and if I plug in -3, I get 0 for it again. So those are the zeros. Okay, so that's step 3. I've labeled the zeros on there. Step 4 is to use test points now. So that idea is, well, you pick some easy to plug in value of x that's less than -5, and you plug it in. So let's test like x equals -10. So you can, and all I'm trying to figure out is, am I going to get positives or negatives? That's it. That's all I want to know. Well, you can plug it into that if you want, but a nice trick is we have it in factored form right here. So this thing is really the same as x plus 3 times x plus 5. And if I plug into that, it's a little easier to figure out if you get a positive or a negative. So when I plug in -10, I'm getting -10 plus 3 times -10 plus 5, which is a negative times another negative, which is going to be a positive. So no matter what, I'm getting a positive value for anything less than -5. When I plug in anything less than -5 for x, this term right here is positive. Okay, well, let's try another one. So let's test, probably an easy one to test right there. Test x equals -4. So we're going to plug that into either that version, the x squared plus 8x plus 15, or the factored version, which is the same. So if I plug in negative 4, I get negative 4 plus 3 times negative 4 plus 5. And that one's going to be a negative number times a positive number. And if I do negative times positive, I get a negative. So everything between negative 5 and 3, when I plug that into this expression right here, I get negatives. Okay, we got one more here. So let's look at this one. So for that one, let's test, well, you can really test anything you want that's to the right of negative 3. Probably x equals 0 is an easy one to test. So if I plug in 0, I'm going to get 0 plus 3 times 0 plus 5. And that's definitely going to be a positive number there. So I get positives here. Okay, so we've done step 4. So step 5 is figure out your solution from the inequality we got in step 1 in the sign chart. So here's the inequality we got from step 1, right there, right? Which has the same answer as the actual original problem that came before it, right? They have the same answer. So when I write my solution, I would say, you know, I'm going to write the original. 12x plus 15 is less than or equal to negative, oh, why is that not right? Negative x squared plus 4x when, and it's really when x squared plus 8x plus 15 is less than or equal to 0. So that happens when, and then we want the x's. So here's the sign chart for this thing right here. Here's the sign chart. And I care about when is it less than or equal to 0. Well, it's equal to 0 at negative 5 and at negative 3, and it's less than 0 everywhere in between. So it's everything from negative 5 for my x's all the way up to negative 3. And I'm including them because I want the 0 values too. I want to include those zeros. Okay? You can also write this, or on the interval. And I start at negative 5, and I end at negative 3, and I want to include them. And when you want to include them, use these square brackets like that. So you could also answer it this way. Okay? Hope that helps a little bit. If instead, you know, I said, when is 12x plus 15 greater than or equal to negative x squared plus 4x, then I would have needed to choose, then I would have ended up with this, when x squared plus 8x plus 15 is greater than or equal to 0. And that happens, you know, when x is less than or equal to negative 5, or when x is greater than or equal to negative 3, right? Because that's where the positive parts are, up here. So, and the zeros, because in that case, I'm including the zeros. Okay, I hope that helps a little bit, and I'll see you guys next class.